In this session, we're going to see how to use Vagrant to create a PHP environment on the cloud. We will not speak about PHP, but we will focus on Vagrant, so it's not, it's quite a different talk. So, who am I? I am Alessio Rocchi. I am an R&D engineer at Aruba. I'm focused on software things, and lately I'm working on integrate open source project like Docker, Vagrant, Puppet, and so on with our cloud service. If you want to contact me, there is a Twitter and a GitHub account. And in the GitHub account, you can also find some of my public work related to Aruba Cloud and not. So, what is Vagrant? Vagrant is an automation tool. It's meant to be used with a virtual machine. With Vagrant, you can create a new virtual machine with the configured environment inside a cloud or a local installation of VirtualBox. This doesn't matter. And what is a use case for Vagrant? A valid use case for Vagrant is when you need to save time, because every time that you create a new environment, every time that you have to develop something with new frameworks, or a different framework, a different database, different architecture, and so on, you have to configure everything manually. For example, you have a load balancer, you have to configure load balancer, for example, HA proxy. If you have multiple front ends, you have to configure Apache or Nginx or whatever you want. You can have a single MySQL instance or multiple MySQL instance with master-slave configuration. And you have to do it every time. You have to do it manually. Vagrant, in this situation, Vagrant can help us because Vagrant, with the simple configuration file and with the really simple approach, you can create a Vagrant configuration file that can create all the virtual machine that you need, and you can push a provisioner that can be, for example, Puppet, Ansible, or a simple shell script to Vagrant. And Vagrant will create for first one. Will create the virtual machine. Then Vagrant will configure everything inside it. So you don't have anymore to configure Apache manually and so on. Vagrant will do it for you. In order to understand why Vagrant is powerful, we need to spend a few words about how Vagrant is made and how Vagrant is structured. Vagrant is made of plugins. Everything inside Vagrant is a plugin. What does it mean? This means that if you need to extend the functionality of Vagrant, this is really simple. You have just to take a plugin, extend the base class, and then add the code that you need to do what you have to do that Vagrant still doesn't do. Vagrant is not written in PHP. It's Ruby, so I know that this is not cool, but unfortunately that's it. So once you have a needs that Vagrant doesn't have. For example, I had to implement a new guest capabilities that configure a CentOS in order to disable TTI, because otherwise update doesn't working. It's simple. We are going to see how to make it in the next few slides. Let's see what are the main components of Vagrant. We have actions, hosts, commands, host capabilities, guests, providers, provisioners, and guests. Action hooks is a middleware. Okay, Vagrant uses a middleware to work. So actions are the middleware that are pushed inside the middleware stack. In this way, you can hook before and after a certain action, and you can push your code You can push your action, or you can remove an action. If you are going to see how it's made Vagrant app, that is a command of Vagrant that build up the virtual machine, it's made by about 10 actions, okay? And about those 10 actions, you can do whatever you want. You can hook them, so you say to Vagrant stop. Before execute the action, I want that you execute my code, because I wrote the classes, okay, that I'm going to push before the action or after an action. Or I simply say to Vagrant, remove that action, because the code is loaded at runtime. This middleware approach made Vagrant a lot of powerful, because you can customize it really to the deep. You can practically change everything of the core functions of Vagrant. I mean, this is not needed usually. I mean, you have just to take Vagrant, install it, download whatever recipe you want. For example, for Puppet, in this presentation, we are going to see how to use Puppet with Vagrant. But you can use Ansible, you can use Chef, you can use Shell script. There are a lot of provisioners that are already available, but you can also write your own provisioner, okay? And it's really, really, really simple. So Vagrant can help us save time when you create new environment, when you have to develop a new application. You can focus on developing new application instead of focusing to the environment. And another thing that is important is that all of the work that you do with Vagrant is text. So can be revisioned, can be versioned, and can be distributed. If you create a configuration, an asset of a multiple virtual machine with a specific configuration, you can just write the text, put it on GitHub, and then say to your colleague, hey, John, I don't know, take the code, download it, and say Vagrant app, and you will have the same environment with the same code, source code that I have. So we can work on the same environment without worrying about different version of PHP, different version of Zen framework, or whatever you want, okay? So it's really important, because it's a tool that can help a lot the life of the developer. How to install Vagrant? This is an example of, it's not really readable, but this is an example of how to install Vagrant on Debian system and Debian. And so you download the package from the site, the official site, and then dpkg the package, and it's okay. Don't use the package inside the repository of a virus distribution, because it's outdated. So download it from the official site. And okay, it's a problem, because this would be an example of an action. When you say Vagrant app, the middleware execute. When you digit Vagrant app, this middleware is executed. As you can see in the definition of the middleware, there is an action builder that is the middleware creator, and the method use will push those classes inside the sequence of Vagrant of the middleware. You can also have you can also put some condition when you call the actions, because you have a set, you have an environment, a context that is passed from a single middleware to another. Once the middleware is unloaded, the environment will be passed to the next middleware. So, other than the data that you have from the manipulation of the middleware, you have also all the information from everything you have inside the configuration file. For example, you can say if there is a certain package, if the machine, for example, is a CentOS or a Debian or whatever you want, okay? You have just everything inside the environment, in this case, the env variable. And this is an example to how to implement a new command. I had to implement the commands to support our cloud. So we have to show what templates we support and what server do you have inside your cloud. And it's really simple because you have just registered new commands inside the RB file and register the classes. Templates and servers in this case are two files that contain a single class that extend the base command class that is inside the Vagrant core, okay? And you have two new commands available within your CLI. To install a new plugin in Vagrant, for example, this is how you install the Aruba Cloud plugin to create a virtual machine inside our cloud to communicate with our cloud. You have just to say Vagrant plugin install and the name of the plugin. Vagrant will check it on RubyGem repository. If the package is available, it will download it and install it. Okay, or you can install by local source. If you write your own plugin, you have just to specify the path instead of the name of the plugin. And this is the configuration file. I split in two slides because it's quite long, but this is the provider-specific configuration. In this part of the file, there are all the configurations that are implemented specifically for Aruba. I mean that inside the Vagrant source, inside the plugin source, there is a config class that extends the basic config class of Vagrant and add Aruba Cloud username, Aruba Cloud password, admin password, etc. You can say to Vagrant to get those information from the environment of the shell or from the configuration file. You have or from as parameters that you pass when you invoke Vagrant itself. This is a classic Vagrant file, standard one. The important thing here is the VM box that is dummy, because we are not specifying any box. Otherwise, you can say to Vagrant to download some boxes that there are a lot of them inside the Vagrant repositories with everything you can. Everything you need. There is already configured box for example, Zen framework, PHP 7. I mean, someone else has already done what you need. So you really don't need to customize it from scratch. And this is, okay, it's not readable at all. No, okay, I'm sorry, but I don't know if it's dark, the background is dark, so I don't know how to change it. Oh, that's right. I don't know if we can, and how. It's possible to lower the lights or turn off. Spingiamo tutto. No, it's still. Okay. Is something readable? That was a bad idea to snapshot. I don't have Linux on this laptop, so I can't. but maybe let me yeah, I know. This is my my game box. So just 1 second. Okay. Oh, I moved the bad one, the bad project, but it's okay. Okay, 1 second. Okay, now it's readable. I lost the pointer. Okay, so as I said before, this is the provider configuration. Okay, for example, if you want to create an Ubuntu machine in our cloud, you have to use template ID, and this is for data center 1. Those configurations are for the provider, but we have the provisioner on the second side here. Okay. So first of all, you can use, as I said before, shell script or Puppet, Chef, and so on. But you can combine them. So in order to update the package and upgrade them once the machine is ready, I used an inline. The inline, the shell.inline is the method that permits to invoke an SSH command. Okay. So when you say Vagrant provision after the app, Vagrant will run the first provisioner, the shell one, and then the second one. The second one is needed in order to configure Puppet. Okay, because I used Puppet MySQL to configure MySQL in order to avoid to create database manually, install MySQL manually, and all set the root password and so on. I want to write it from scratch to Puppet because there is already a plugin for Puppet that work really well. And after the manual configuration, Puppet is invoked. Okay, with the last line. We say that the provisioner is Puppet, and then we point the manifest directory and the site.php that is the main Puppet file in this case. At this point, I need the presentation. Okay. Sorry, because I had to. Okay. This is the structure of my configuration for Puppet. It's specific for this purpose because I wanted to show how it's simple to configure it. But to achieve this, there is already a Puppet plugin that do everything without without any effort. Okay. There's I have to switch again. Switch again to okay. This is the main Puppet configuration. You can ignore the errors because I don't have the syntax installed. But what we are going to do here is first of all including the utils that install Git, and I don't remember what package also. Apache define how Apache is configured, which directory, which virtual hosts, and so on. And Puppet MySQL, the plugin for Puppet that we saw before, in those few lines permit us to install MySQL, the version that is 5. I don't remember, but you can specify here. You can set the root password from here. you can override some options if you need. I use those two, but it's just an example. And create a database, okay? Of course, you can also create a user. And of course, you can specify other options for the database itself. This is a basic configuration, but you can go deeper with the configuration of the database and MySQL. And last things are install PHP version 5.5 in this case, check that users are configured, the www data, and install CodeIgniter. Okay, this example will lead us to have a CodeIgniter application up and running with 2 commands. So, okay, we are late, so I have to skip. Something. Okay, so as I said, the Vagrant app, bring up the virtual machine, install an SSH key in order to avoid to use username and password to log in after the first time. The provision one, Vagrant provision, will run everything inside the Vagrant file, the shell scripts and the Puppet configuration. And once the process is done, you have to do Vagrant SSH inside the virtual machine and change the base URL of CodeIgniter example. Once you have done that, the framework is installed. Okay. And CodeIgniter is working. There are really only 2 commands to execute in order to have a basic configuration with the CodeIgniter working. But it could be Zend, could be everything else. Can be on Aruba Cloud, or Rackspace, or OVH. I mean, there are plugins for every provider, and also you can use these on VirtualBox inside your virtual machine. Okay, so that's it. Vagrant, as you can see, permit you to do whatever you want. For another example that I had to use in real life is that I had to try an application with the load balancer, many front ends, and MySQL with active-active. Okay, and I needed time to configure everything. But with Vagrant, it's really simple because I edited the Vagrant file and I put multiple machines. I create inside the Vagrant file the number of the virtual machines that I needed, so the load balancer with the HA proxy, the front end with Apache, MySQL with the configuration of cluster, and the Puppet recip. I used Puppet, but you can use whatever you want. So with with 10 minutes of downloading the plugins and downloading the recip, I had the environment ready with the quite complex architecture. Okay, and that's cool because I could start to develop instead of losing 1 or 2 hours to configure everything. And the version I did on GitHub, so my colleague could take it and, okay, I have it too, so we can work on the same project without worrying about having the same environment and the same package version and so on. Okay, that's it. Thank you, and